You're listening to the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brenna Hicks, the Kid Counselor. This is the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast, where I give you insight, awareness, and enlightenment about your parenting and your relationship with your kids. In today's episode, we are talking about the parenting prison, what it is, and how to get free from it. We've talked about this topic a little bit before, and the parenting prison is a big piece of the foundational understanding of the play therapy approach and how it provides the way out. So it's a really important hinge pin, I like to call it, for this whole process of parenting. And I was actually commenting, I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos and I responded to the person that left a comment, and it was a dad who said, thanks so much for this video. It was really helpful, blah, blah, blah. And then said, we're just two parents trying to learn how to parent here. And that really just resonated with me because isn't that what we're all doing? We're just parents trying to parent. It's like we're swimmers trying to swim, we're jumpers trying to jump. It's like it's kind of silly to say it, but we unfortunately aren't given the guidelines, the roadmap, the manual before we become parents. And sometimes it's a trial by error, learn as you go kind of thing. And that's why the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast exists, because the desire and the hope and the vision is that we are able to equip ourselves and know how to handle things in the most effective way. And in this case, we have to get ourselves out of the parenting prison. So here's what ends up happening. I want to talk through 3 specific pieces of this today. The first is that we often parent the way that we were parented. So if we had a specific parenting style that we grew up with as kids, we tend to repeat that cycle. If that is not true, then we end up trying to do something completely different. And what I mean by that is sometimes we don't like the way we were parented, so we decide we want to do something differently. And so then we end up with a limited set of options because we don't really know what our system is, because we can't repeat the system that we had it when we were children. So I think that's where we're going to start, because that's a big piece of the puzzle. The second thing I want to talk about today is we have to have some pretty important realizations to be effective parents. And one of the biggest, probably the biggest, if I had to prioritize them, is that kids aren't rational. That is the foundation upon which everything rests. So we have to realize that kids are not rational to get ourselves out of the parenting prison. We'll talk through that. And then finally, we fall back on the 4 pillars of play therapy, which we talk about all the time. I know sometimes you feel like it's ad nauseum, I'm sure, but those are the ways that we free ourselves. And so we'll talk through that a little bit as well. The path to calm, confident, and in control parenting starts now. All right, so when we talk through parenting, we end up having to categorize ourselves. And I'm not one for labels. I'm not one for categorization really as a whole. I don't think that, putting a name on something or a label or a diagnosis is necessarily helpful. However, when we think about the parenting approaches, there are definite categories into which we fall. So there's the yeller. There's the lecturer, there's the shamer, there's the doormat, the spanker, the withdrawer. So I don't know that that's a word, but the parent who withdraws instead of dealing with issues. So I just made that word up maybe, but get the point. You are always going to naturally find yourself in a parenting style category. And sometimes we cross over and we have more than one, but there's kind of a default where when things get hard in a parenting moment, we fill in the blank. We yell, we lecture, we withdraw, we shame, we spank, we whatever. There's always this approach that we have. The problem is none of those work. And I don't use absolutes unless I mean them. None of those approaches work. And so if we're parenting the way we were parented, maybe we grew up in a home of yellers or spankers or lecturers. So we just continue the pattern that we experienced as children. Not that it means it was appropriate, not that it means it was effective, but it's all we know. If you fall into the category of, I hated the fact that I was yelled at, I hated the fact that I was spanked, so therefore I refuse to do that with my own children, then you end up with a limited set of options because you don't really have an approach because you're refusing to use the one approach that you do know. So then that puts you in the category of you're always parenting in the moment, on the fly, trying something new. Okay, well, I can't spank, so maybe I'll be really sweet. I can't spank, so maybe I'll just go take a walk to cool down so that I don't yell. So it's always a throw this against the wall and see if it sticks approach. That's, in my words, that's willy-nilly parenting, right? So it's like, oh, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll try this. Maybe this will work. Maybe we'll do this. And that's what I hear all the time. The parents who are truly trying, because it's easy to just parent the way we were parented. That's kind of default mode, right? That's what we know. That's what's easy. That doesn't require a whole lot of intention, thought, work, effort, any of those things. So the ones who say, I really want to try to do something differently. I really want to work hard to be a more effective parent. That's typically what I end up hearing. I've tried everything. End quote. I'm air quoting. You can't see me. So I've tried everything. That's where most parents are when they're trying to be effective parents. I've tried yelling. I've tried not yelling. I've tried timeout. I've tried ignoring the behavior. I've tried positive reinforcement. And they give me the list of everything they've tried. And they're still frustrated. Nothing is working because they have a limited set of options. So there's always this sense of we parent the way we've been parented, or we're always trying something new with a limited set of options. And that's what the parenting prison is all about. We are stuck in this parenting prison and we don't know how to free ourselves. And one of the phrases that I live and die by is we don't know what we don't know. So until we're made aware of new choices, new options, new approach, we don't know what we don't know and we're stuck. So when we're in this parenting prison, it's frustrating, it's defeating, it's overwhelming, it's confusing. It's all of these emotions that we don't want to have as parents. So we have to know what to do instead. So that moves us into the realization that we have to have about certain things. And in today's episode, we're only going to talk about one realization because it's the most important. Kids aren't rational. Until the age of 12 or 13, they don't develop abstract reasoning. That sounds like a lot of jargon. What does that mean, Brenna? It means they can't think through something with rational thought. And you know me, I'm a quote person, right? My quote books and all that. So another one of my favorite quotes is, you can't be reasonable with unreasonable people. You can't rationalize with irrational people. Okay? So when we try to use a cognitive approach with our kids, yelling, lecturing, shaming, any of those things, it doesn't work because that's not where they are developmentally. Developmentally, children are here and now emotional beings until 12 or 13. So we cannot expect them to be reasonable. We cannot expect them to be rational. We cannot expect them to be cognitive until they have reached the age of abstract reasoning, which is 12 or 13. So what does that mean? That means when we are parenting, we have to meet them at their age-appropriate developmental level. And that's where the pillars of play therapy come in. So we'll get there in just a second. But one of the greatest turnarounds, one of the greatest transformations that we see at the center is when parents finally get it, that their entire parenting approach has to come from the place of understanding that kids are not rational. When you finally get that, when you finally click with that premise, everything changes because you will stop yelling because it doesn't work. You will stop lecturing because it doesn't work. You will stop trying to shame them because it doesn't work. You will stop asking them questions. Why did you do that? What made you think that was a good idea? Why are you crying? Why? All of the questions that we ask and that we berate our children with, they don't work because our children don't have abstract reasoning. And stories are always better. So let me give you an example. There was I think he was probably 10, but definitely not of abstract reasoning age, little boy that I was working with. And he was trying to figure out how to shoot the dart gun in my playroom. And, in any other area of his life, in any other environment with any other person, they would have just swooped in and either told him how, showed him how, or done it for him. And in the playroom, children are fully capable, fully autonomous, and fully independent. And so he kept trying to figure out, he couldn't load it correctly, he couldn't get it to shoot. And in his frustration, in his high level of emotion, he was not only angry at me because I wasn't helping, but he also was angry at himself. And so rather than accepting ownership, he started to try to pass the blame. So at first it was my fault because I have broken toys in my playroom, which was not true, but he was trying to blame something or someone. So it became me. So you don't even have toys that work in here, et cetera, et cetera. Then the next shift was the toy is broken, so it's the toy's fault. Then it became, it's the other kids who broke it before him's fault. So as you can see, he's emotional, he doesn't know what to do with it. Right? So he's trying to find someone or something to blame. So after he runs through all of that, 40 or so minutes go by before he realizes, oh my gosh, I just figured it out. And I watched it. I watched it on his face. I saw him go internally, oh my gosh, I know how to do it now. So he goes back over, loads the dart gun, gets it ready. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to celebrate. We finally did it. Like he worked so hard. He didn't give up. He figured it out. So I'm all ready to reflect how proud he must be and how excited he must be. And he aims the loaded dart gun right at my head. And so this is retaliation now because he's mad it took so long. He's mad I didn't help. He's mad that he couldn't figure it out. So there's anger that needs to be expressed now. So he aims the loaded dart gun right at me. He's probably only 3 feet away from me. And before he did anything, I said, oh, I thought you were going to be excited for figuring it out, but you're really angry that it was so hard and you're thinking about shooting me, but people aren't for shooting. Now, for those of you who are new to this podcast, that was the first 2 parts of the limit setting process. So I reflected his feeling and I set a limit. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back and look at other articles and videos and episodes. But for those of you that have been with me for a long time, that was the reflecting feeling skill and the limit setting skill. So now he has a choice to make. So he knows that people aren't for shooting. He knows that I'm acknowledging how he feels. Now he has to decide what he's going to do about it. And he fired and the dart hit me right in the throat. And I am very tough. I am very stoic in the playroom. Things don't really faze me. I mean, I bleed, I get bruised, I have things thrown at me, shot at me, whatever. So, casualties of being a play therapist, right? So I don't really get fazed by a whole lot. But in this particular instance, because it was so close range and because it hit me in the throat, it legitimately hurt. So I just stare at the ground with my eyes shut. And I just was completely flat and calm, but inside I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But the child-centered, non-directive play therapy approach says he doesn't have abstract reasoning yet. So there has to be something that he can relate to before he's able to expand his worldview. So after I give myself a moment, the parallel story is I'm recovering from the pain of getting shot in the throat, and he's staring at the ground, his eyes as big as saucers, like deer in headlights. Everything about his nonverbals, his body language, his facial expression, they all said, I am absolutely dead meat, right? He is in absolute panic mode because he knows what he did is wrong. He knows he wasn't supposed to shoot me, and he knows that I'm not happy about it. So he is just like, oh no, I'm dead, okay? So I'm sitting there recovering, he's panicking, and I finally look up at him, he looks up at me, and I said, you chose to shoot me anyway, even though you knew that people weren't for shooting because you were angry, but it hurt because it hit me in the throat. So that's an acknowledgement of behavior, and that is an acknowledgement of what happened to me because of his choice. Now, in most parenting scenarios, that's it. You're never playing with that again. Give that to me. Go to your room. You're grounded. Why did you do that? What? Who do you think you are? I mean, you can see in parenting interactions what the reaction would be. There would be shaming, spanking, lecturing, yelling, questioning, all of those things. Or you have the internalizers that quietly go off to the room and cry, or they feel so bad that their kids are so awful to them, and they become doormats and they just withdraw and they just deal with it internally. Okay, but we already covered that all of those things don't work. So why did I respond the way I responded? Because it provides worldview. Because he then is brought to confront within himself, I know what I did was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done that. And I just hurt someone that I care about, and I hate how I feel right now. Now, notice that is all emotionally driven. He still does not have abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning would be, I really want to shoot her right now, but I know that I shouldn't, so I won't. That's abstract reasoning. He doesn't have it, but he goes through the process of, I wasn't supposed to do that. I did it anyway. She got hurt. Someone I cared about is now affected by my actions, and I hate this feeling. I never want to feel this way again. So guess what happens after I say that to him? He cocks his head sideways, which is the telltale, I'm processing this thing internally. And then he goes, fine. Sighs, rolls his eyes, loads the dart gun again, and starts shooting at the wall instead of me. So what lesson was learned there? Someone who cared about me, what I did negatively impacted them. I don't like the way this feels. I don't like losing control and doing things that I'm not supposed to do. So I'm now going to control myself so that that doesn't happen again. I never once raised my voice. I never once got angry. I never once enforced a consequence. I never punished. I never reacted. I just said, you chose to do that and it hurt because it hit me in the throat. And he self-corrected. He self-regulated. He self-controlled. So that's a long illustration story to help you understand what abstract reasoning is, and when kids don't have it, what needs to happen instead. Because until 13, they're not going to be able to stop themselves before they do it. Because they're here and now emotionally driven. So in the moment, I'm mad, I want to shoot you, fire. That is here and now emotional. Abstract reasoning would have been, I'm mad, I want to shoot her, but I can't because. I shouldn't because. I won't because. However, when you go through the process like I did, reflect feelings, set the limit, and then talk about what happened, the child says, I never want to feel this way again. I won't do that anymore. Self-control. Because the parenting approach, when we are stuck in a parenting prison, the parenting approach has to work. And often what we try doesn't work because it doesn't meet children where they are. So I don't have time to get into the choice giving, limit setting, reflecting feelings, but those are the ways that we parent effectively and get ourselves out of the parenting prison. The realization that kids are not rational comes first. So what do we do instead? We use the 4 pillars of play therapy. And so go back and listen to those archived episodes. Go back and watch my videos, read my blog articles. There's all kinds of information about those things, and they will be linked in the show notes. But you have to keep in mind that to get yourself out of the parenting prison, you can't have a limited set of options, and you can't parent the way you were parented. You have to be equipped and knowledgeable with new things that work. You have to recognize your children are not rational, and you have to use the 4 pillars of play therapy. And then you will start to see the confidence and the competence loop increase about your parenting. We've talked about that before. Confidence and competence are a loop. Think of it as like a figure 8, if you will. So as you feel more confident, you are more competent. As you are more competent, your confidence increases. So that loop begins when you are able to get yourself free from the parenting prison. And that is why we do this podcast. That is why we spend time together each week, so that we don't have to be stuck. We can set ourselves free with tools that work, with principles that are effective, and with an approach that is age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, and that helps us build the relationship. Because again, everything comes back to the relationship. When we yell, we fracture it. When we lecture, we fracture it. When we shame, we fracture it. When we power struggle with our kids, we fracture it. When we spank, we fracture it. Anything we do other than this fractures the relationship. And we've worked way too hard for way too long to build the relationship, to let the lack of tools get in the way. So now you know what the parenting prison is, you know how to get free from it, and I hope that you feel extremely empowered, extremely encouraged, and you believe that this is doable, because it is when you have a framework, and that's what play therapy provides. It is an effective framework for interacting with kids in the most appropriate way for where they are developmentally. So I'm super excited for this. I hope that you are able to take this, implement it this week. I'd love to hear from you. Send me your questions, your comments, your stories. I love it when you reach out, Brenna@thekidcounselor.com. And if you haven't signed up and subscribed for the podcast, please do that. It really helps us get found. And if you would like to sign up for my newsletter and you haven't yet, that is at playtherapyparenting.com/newsletter. Playtherapyparenting.com is also where all of the archived episodes are housed. So if you're new, make sure you check those out. Quick reminder, Gab Wireless, the affiliate that I have a relationship with, GABB, 2Bs Wireless, internet-free, safe phones for kids, no social media, etc. They're running a summer special, $50 off with the promo code PLAY. So by being a listener, you will save $50 off their phone or their watch. So if you want a safe, peace of mind phone for your kids, check that out. Also, if you are not already aware, I wrote a book called Device Detox, and I just wanted to make you aware, for those of you who are new, if you want to get your kids to a healthy amount of screens, please check out my book, Device Detox. It's a play therapy-based approach to balance the amount of screen time in your home with your children, so that their brains are protected and safe. That's available on Amazon, Device Detox. As always, thank you for being a part of the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast family. I'll look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Play Therapy Parenting Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks. For more episodes and to subscribe to our newsletter, please go to www.playtherapyparenting.com.